It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. This week on the show, all the way from Long Island, we have Delaney Hafener of the Belle joining me to talk about misconceptions of country music, the importance of platonic relationships, the fantastic live album that Belle did at Pete's Candy Store out in Brooklyn, and a few shows that the Belle has coming up, including Rockwood Music Hall in New York City, April the 15th, Farmingville, May 13th at Mayday Festival. And it was so cool to catch up with Miss Delaney Hafener of the Belle right here on My Little Underground. Delaney Hafener, welcome to My Little Underground. So glad to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah. The last time we spoke, I was on radio and you were in a different band, Panda Fan. So I think it's interesting how we've kind of progressed to different mediums. You know, I moved from radio to podcasting, and you've progressed and pivoted from Panda Fan to Belle. Now, Belle has a very Americana country twang to it, and Panda Fan had a more just broad focal sound, if for lack of a better term. Did you always plan on moving towards a more twangy country sound, or listen, I'm going to start something new, a new project, fresh, and start clean?
This is like a boring answer. It's kind of somewhere in between, honestly. I think I spent a lot of time with Panafin trying to figure out what I was trying to do. I didn't really have there were times, like particular songs or particular EPs, when I think that I had a clear vision, and like me and the other people in the band, we had a clear vision for what we wanted, but for the overall sound of the band, I don't think that, we necessarily had that clarity. And I think going into the Belle, I was older, for one thing, and I had listened to a lot more kinds of music because I was older. And I kind of had started figuring out what it was I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to have a full band, a full band sound. And yeah, so I think it was as much a product of just growing and just being more mature as it was, some kind of intentional decision.
With growing and evolving, because I know what that's like on my end, what are some music misconceptions that you've had that you've let go during this growing and evolving phase?
I think that I have learned how to collaborate a lot better. I think that I used to feel like it was all or nothing. You were either co-writing and making every decision as a band, or it was a solo project and you had to do it all yourself. So when I stopped doing Panda Fan, which was extremely collaborative, and I first started the Belle, I thought the Belle was going to be a solo project, that it was going to be, my songs. I would play most of the instruments. I would kind of be doing everything myself. And like, it is still my project, but I have learned how and when to sort of like relinquish control to people who know what they're doing better than me. So I think that's a big part of it. And as far as the music itself, I think, again, I just listen to a lot more different kinds of music, and a lot of music outside of the music that I make. And I think that that's really important. And that's something I wasn't really doing because I was sort of stubbornly listening only to music within the genre that I was making, which was this sort of like, artsy indie folk kind of stuff. And I just, I kind of grew out of that. And I was like, there's so much out there. And the more, it's kind of like a curry or a stew. And like the more flavors you add in, the more complex and more interesting it's going to be. So yeah, and I try to listen to a lot of different stuff now. And I still think that I don't listen to like that many kinds of music when you really take into account like all the kinds of music across the world. But Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now.
When you talk about relinquishing control, it's very hard to do. I
Yeah.
can relate
Mm-hmm.
because I do everything for this show, but
Mm-hmm.
recently I asked a graphic designer to do the logo for the show, and something I've never really done before.
Mm-hmm.
My brother does the intro music, just kind of letting go of that and seeing what other people that can do things better than I can
Mm-hmm.
add to this show. So what are some things that you were able to just kind of let go of control over?
Well, like drums were a big thing because I'm a horrible drummer. I've been trying to teach myself to play drums a little bit just because it's good to learn things. But it really is not easy for me, and so I've always had to rely on drummers and kind of just like settling into that and being fine with it and trying not to micromanage. Also, my dad is my guitar player and really kind of like leaning on his ideas um has been a really crucial part of the sound, I think. Um, and yeah, those are the two big things I think. Oh, and having other people sing harmonies on my recordings because the vocal harmonies are such a big part of the sound as well. And on the first album that I did as the Bell Curves, and this was coming out of Panda Fan, like I said, when I thought the Bell Curves was going to be a solo project, I did all of the vocal harmonies myself. I just overdubbed them. So it's all me. And then on the EP after that, EP 2020, I had a somewhat consistent live band lineup, and I was like, I should really have them do the harmonies. And like the texture and again, the depth makes it so much more interesting to have these different, you know, these disparate but complementary voices. I think was really important in the growth of the sound as well.
So when I think about the bell curves, and what I'm understanding is you and your dad do kind of a lot of the like the back end work, like recording and miking and all this stuff. Bell curves is essentially a DIY operation, even though you have other people as a part of the group.
Hmm.
So with you and your dad, what are you doing yourselves, and
Hmm.
what are you letting other people do? Like, what are you two relinquishing control over?
Mm. Well, so we do basically everything related to the audio. And then but we are thinking about maybe having someone else mix and or master the next batch of tunes. Just, again, because this collaboration has been really fruitful so far, so why not extend it out to another part of the process? But like you were saying, graphic design, I hired a really great designer for the album cover for Watershed, and he did such a great job. Ryan Allison is his name. Um, and my partner did the photography for it and all of the sort of other promo photos for the whole sort of like era of Watershed and the sort of like visual aesthetic that goes along with it. Um, we had piano and fiddle both tracked remotely. So I sent them off to the musicians and they sent back tracks. And so I didn't really have an opportunity to like micromanage and like get too into my head about it. I just asked musicians who I trusted to put parts down on the tracks and like it came back and I was like over the moon about them. I was so excited. Um yeah, those are the biggest things I think.
You know who did the new logo for this show?
No.
Brianna Martinson of Nectar.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's so funny.
Yep. They're fantastic. All the
Yes.
proofs, I told them exactly what I wanted. I had a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with them beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
and nail on the head.
It's so cool when someone can do
Perfect.
that. It's like incredible.
They
Yeah.
saw everything that was in my head and everything
Mm-hmm.
I dictated. They
Mm-hmm.
got it. And
And just like
it was
and like
cool.
capturing the vibe of like what you're
Yes.
trying to do, when and like we're both doing things that are so detached from a visual communication that to have someone be able to communicate that for you is just like so sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with mixing and mastering, right?
Hmm.
Did you and your dad do that for Watershed?
Yeah. Yeah, my dad
Wow.
mixed it and mastered it and yeah, I kind of produced it and yeah. So,
So for the next project,
mhm.
are you looking for other producers and other people to mix and master this project?
Well, I'm still producing it and I'm
Yeah.
probably producing it even more than Watershed because I am kind of bringing it back into myself and going to be doing a lot of I'm doing all of the acoustic guitars and I'll be doing the bass and kind of, you know, Watershed, we recorded a lot of recorded it mostly live. We recorded the band live and then did some overdubs. Um, but the core of the recordings were done live. So the two electric guitars, bass, and drums all live on all the songs. And on this, we're doing it really differently. We're going to be building the tracks on top of the drums, basically, and having a few different drummers and just really kind of taking a slower approach to the whole thing. So I'm not sure what the mixing and mastering stage will look like because we'll probably end up doing a lot of the mixing as we go, which I know is not considered best practice, but whatever. So yeah, I'm not sure yet, but it's on the table, so we'll see what happens.
Do you set timetables for yourself? Like, I'm gonna get these songs written by this date, and we're gonna finish the album by this date.
Not really, because I feel like I I want the music that I make to be fun, and
And
I
it
don't,
is.
yeah, and like I don't want to like make it a chore for myself. I want it to be like fulfilling and be something that I'm doing because I want to do it, not because I feel like I should or have to, which
Yeah.
is kind of why I am happy to have a day job and not be trying to make money at making music because I don't know. I feel like I've found a lot of joy and success with music making so far, and I haven't really made any money at it, and I don't feel like those things are conflicting. So,
I think if COVID taught us anything about the music business is that it's very fragile, and
mm-hmm,
that I believe that music would outlive the industry
mm-hmm.
because there was still music coming out when there was
Yeah.
no touring.
Well, and
So
like
that says everything.
humans, right, and like humans have been making music for thousands and thousands of years just because they wanted to. Like there was no reason for people to be making music for most of the time we've been making music. So like I don't need a reason either. Like that just feels like a very modern creation. So I try to keep that in the back of my mind whenever I'm feeling like, I don't know, hard on
So
myself. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So before I pick your brain about some songs on Watershed, I want
Hmm.
to get your thoughts on country music as a whole. So when you were starting to dive into the bell curves, knowing that you were going into this twangy Americana approach, what are some misconceptions that you had against country music and that you feel like people as a whole have?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's hard because like the circle that I sort of run in now, people sort of do get it. But then I talk to someone who's not, in the Americana alt country scene, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm saying country music, but like you think that I mean like Luke Bryan. And I'm like, that ain't it. Like I'm talking about like, Justin Townes Earl and like, these kinds of like Americana people. And I think a lot of people assume that country is all this top 40 stuff and this, and it's just garbage. I can't even name any more top 40 country artists because I pay so little attention to that world.
Like the
Um,
pickup truck kind of stuff.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's such trash and it's just, it's like garbage for conservatives.
Yeah.
It's
But when
just
you
junk food and like
yes, yeah.
and
Yes.
the Americana and alt country world is just so much more welcoming. I mean, people like Jason Isbell and Brandy Carlisle are like
Oh yeah.
real progressive people who are on the right side of history and you know, that's Americana music and it's really country music, but like it feels like country music. It's is a dirty word because of the mainstream junk.
Like stuff like I think you're kind of cut from the cloth of like Emily Lou Harris,
Yes.
Bonnie Raitt, the
Mm-hmm.
High Women, and Brandy
Right.
Carlisle specifically, like
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and I like a lot of that stuff too.
And
But
I think a lot of
yeah,
people would because it's just it's stories and it's very human and it's people and it's good songs that you just I don't know, like it's just really simple and good, and I always think of someone like John Prine who like really perfected the art of like simple human storytelling through song. And, you know, yeah,
yeah, the song is everything.
exactly. And they're just stories about people, you know. And I think that that is what makes it country music.
When you look at country music, at least what is played on major country radio formats, to me it is a top 40 formula, a pop music formula in the
Hmm.
worst way,
Yeah, it's
coded
right,
with the a country aesthetic. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. Exactly. And it's like barely it's barely even country. Like
It's
these
not
people
even
have
country
like
music.
these
Yeah,
these fake like generically southern accents. Like some folks that I follow and sort of online friends with are like people who grew up in Appalachia and the deep south and these places that have like distinct regional accents. And it's kind of a point of contention because a lot of these, mainstream country stars just have these like fake generic southern accents because they're just generic products made to sell, you know.
exactly. And when an artist like Casey Musgraves does really big in the Grammys, then the country radio world will accept it because it's an artist that won a country award, right?
Right.
So the biggest artist that won the biggest music award or whatever, oh yeah, that's ours. But then
Right.
like Lil Nas X does a song with Billy Ray Cyrus and
Right.
the world shuts down.
Right. God
You know what
forbid.
I'm saying?
Right. Hmm.
So that world is a wee bit racist, if you ask
Oh
me.
yeah, absolutely. And actually there's a group called the Black Opry that is trying to sort of like highlight people of color in country and roots music, and they're doing really really great work because there's obviously a very long history of like black people specifically making country music what it is. I mean it wouldn't be what it is without that contribution. So yeah, the Black Opera is doing really, really important work, and they're actually getting some recognition finally. But
Do you
yeah,
know of
totally
Linda
agree.
Martell?
No.
Oh, she's great. She put out one album in the early 70s called Color Me Country. Black
Oh,
woman.
okay. I
Yeah,
have heard of the album. I did not know her name.
it is absolutely fantastic.
I'm
Like
gonna.
me, I had my own preconceptions of country, and it was that what we were talking about. But
Mm-hmm.
then I hear people like Yola, and then I hear
Right.
Linda Martell, then I hear
Yes.
Loretta Lynn, I hear all this stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, huh, Dolly Parton. I'm like,
Right.
whoa, this is
Mm-hmm.
country music, isn't it? Huh,
Yes. Mm-hmm. And
interesting.
it's good.
It's very
It's
good.
like good music.
Yeah. I mean, when Dolly Parton was on Colbert Show, what he does the Late Show, yeah,
Hmm.
she made him cry just by
Right.
singing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like that's something.
Yes.
It's
Mm-hmm.
something about it's the song and her voice is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
But there,
she's on
yeah.
another plane of existence. She and
Mhm.
Emily both are just
Oh,
like
they're
I don't
outstanding.
know how they do it. Like
Exactly.
I wish I could sing like that. It's insane.
You have a nice voice. Don't
Well,
undersell
thank
yourself.
you. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's okay. I don't feel like it's underselling myself to say that I don't sing like Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's pick apart some of the song. Not pick apart as in criticize,
Oh,
just like
sure.
talk through.
No, I would love to criticize them. I think it's good to be critical of your own work because otherwise you don't get better.
Okay, okay. So on Watershed, we haven't been speaking. I absolutely
Hmm.
love this song,
No, thank you.
and it's what we're talking about. It's a story, and it's a great song.
Hmm.
You're talking about a disagreement you had with a friend over your country direction, right?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah. It's someone that was I made music with for a long, long time. And they did not really want to do it as seriously as I wanted to do it. And it became sort of a point of contention in our friendship, which kind of came to a head, and for a lot of different reasons. And yeah, we really didn't talk for like a year, and we both had a lot of growing to do. And so when they reached out to me, like after this year had gone by, I was ready to like have them back in my life. But yeah, so it's definitely a song about platonic friendship and like the complexity of that can be present in a platonic relationship, because I feel like there's no songs about that.
And
There's so
I
many.
think about those relationships are very important, just as much as
Yeah,
your romantic ones.
right. And there are so many songs about romantic relationships. And I feel like our friendships and our platonic relationships can be as as deep and fulfilling as they can be devastating when they end, you know. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, luckily me and my friend are very, very close friends again. So we had a happy ending. But yeah.
what are some things that you've learned about yourself during that period of hiatus between you and your friend?
I realized that I can be pretty judgmental and like I hold people to very high standards, and that's not always fair. And I can also be kind of like naive because like I'm just very like neurotypical, and like I've had a pretty like mainstream childhood for the
Mainstream
most
childhood.
part. Like nothing really terrible has ever happened to me. And so like I would have a hard time sometimes understanding like why people would do things a certain way, or like be self-destructive or do X, Y, and Z. And then like, it kind of had to realize that like everyone has their own shit going on, and like some people just take longer to figure stuff out. And I don't know, yeah, just like everyone is going through shit all the time, and just like give people space and time.
When you say mainstream childhood, you mean like you had a two-parent household, loving parents, and all this
Hmm.
stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we didn't really like, I didn't grow up with money, and like we definitely like struggled, but like, I had a stable place to live. My parents stayed together. I had, smart and supportive and fun sisters to grow up with. And like, we never went hungry, even if we were broke a lot of the time. And like, yeah. So I would get really frustrated when friends would be self-destructive or do things that I didn't understand. And like, that was really coming from a place of like judgment. And like, that's not really fair to people to hold them to the same standards that I hold myself to when they don't even know that I'm doing it. Like, that's not fair. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, that, and realizing that I'm not a mind reader and no one else is a mind reader. And, you have to actually say things directly if you want them to be understood. So,
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that, definitely, wholeheartedly.
yeah.
So when you're
Hmm.
talking about critiquing your songs, what
Hmm.
is one thing that you would critique about we haven't been speaking?
Um, Actually, that's like one of my favorite songs of mine, so that's a bad example. What would I change about that song? Nope, that one's good as it is.
Well, we live in an era
I'm
where
I'm gonna
that's
pass.
possible. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We live in an era where that's like possible to do that. Like you can change your songs in real time. I think
Yes.
Kevin Parker's done it. And I think Kanye West has done it too.
Well, and I'm
So,
actually revamping a song. The last
oh,
song on Promising Light, I'm resurfacing, and we're gonna put it on the next album with like a different feel and different production and stuff. Um, but yeah,
what about let's talk about Whole New Homesick. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is this about like seeing people for the first time after being isolated from COVID?
that is part of what it's about. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's also about sort of navigating living in a very conservative area like during the 2020 election, the 2020 election cycle was
Oh
like
boy.
really scary and stressful. My partner was like in the midst of transitioning, and like, we have like the gay pride flag out in front of our house, and like then our neighbors would have like a let's go Brandon flag in front of their house. And it was just like, how do you like respect someone's humanity and like hold on to the belief that everyone deserves a fulfilling life, and also like not take shit from people, and like not feel the need to respect everyone's opinion. So that's part of what that song is about, is like trying to figure out how to respect people's humanity without having to respect their opinion.
Yeah, like
Yeah, and it's also about COVID, like you said, like it's straight up about just like the sort of monotony of staying home all the time. And like, yeah, you can like FaceTime and Zoom and text and stuff, but it's not the same as just like chilling with your friends or being at a show. So, yeah.
I also think it's interesting that Long Island, right? Which a good part of it is very like conservative, and a lot of Long Island likes country music too, but like the country music that we were talking about, a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
that junk food stuff.
Yes.
And also Long Island is known for like hip hop and then emo specifically. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of like outside of all of that, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like, do you feel like approaching this new sound sort of isolated you from the Long Island music community or no? And I know you have a lot of people that in the Long Island scene. You could almost do like a Long Island Highwomen situation going on. But
That's
I
a
want your
great
thoughts.
idea. That's
Yeah.
a great idea. Um, yeah, I was just talking about this to someone today. Like I I would say that like maybe 3 years ago when I was first getting started with the bell curves, I would say yes, I felt isolated. But the last couple years, I feel like there has been sort of a burgeoning Americana roots songwriter scene, at least in my area here in like central and eastern Suffolk. There's like a pretty decent crop of singer-songwriters who are kind of, swimming in that Americana roots, alt country, folksy lane. And I think it's really great. And some of these folks have like been on the scene and, have been here a while, and some of them are, more like my peers and like around my age. Um, so I do feel less alone lately, and I think that choosing to go with this twangier, more intentionally Americana sound has made it easier in a lot of ways to find those people, because it's easier to describe the sound. Whereas, like, if you listen to the first Bell Curves album, it's a little bit more all over the map, because I was still, trying to find that clarity that I was talking about before. Like, the first album, Promising Light, is a combination of like leftover Panda Fan songs and the stuff that would sort of come to define the sound of the Bell Curves. Um, so that's a really roundabout way of saying that I have found people here, and I'm really grateful for that. But I
And
don't know if
also, yeah.
I don't know if I'm just like in my own little microcosm, or um I don't know what most people like. It doesn't really matter to me as long as I find the people who like my music.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need to be appealing to most people, because that doesn't appeal to me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Because I do the
Yeah.
same thing for this show. Like I don't
Yeah.
talk to everybody. I talk to
Yeah.
whoever wants to, listen.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
That's all. So
Yeah.
let's go back to February 2021. Um, you're recording and rehearsing what will become Watershed. Now, this is a very challenging time in society because COVID was still ramping, and as you put it, there was no vaccines yet. So, what were some challenges and successes of rehearsing and recording an album during this time?
Yeah. So we recorded it at our house in Brookhaven, in our basement studio here. And Nick Balzano was the drummer. It was me and my dad, Bill Hafner, and then Pete Mancini, who's another one of those songwriters I was talking about before. He also played electric guitar. And we basically just kind of decided that we were gonna, enter each other's inner circles, as it were, because that's kind of like people were doing like the pods back then, where you'd be like, okay, I'm going to be in contact with these specific people, and that way it'll be easy to
Yep.
contact trace, whatever. We take responsibility for each other. So we kind of just decided to do that with each other. And like, frankly, like Pete and Nick didn't have much going on at that point because they're both full-time gigging musicians. So I think they were sort of grateful to have something to work on. I was grateful to have people to work with. And yeah, we rehearsed like 5 or 6 weeks leading up to the recording sessions, and then we spent like 3 or 4 days just banging them out. And yeah, I don't remember it being too challenging, honestly. It just felt really good and right. And I remember I just remembered like that being a big turning point for me in a lot of ways, that time, that end of February, early March. Um, because I had quit a job that was making me miserable. Um, Started working on this album that I knew was going to be a real watershed moment for me.
Good one. Good one.
Thanks. That was really bad. I'm sorry.
You were saving that.
Yeah, I'm like, this is my moment. Um, so I knew that I was making the music that I wanted to make. Finally, I was just like stoked on it. And then the vaccine became available like 2 weeks after that. And it just felt like I, I just remember feeling like I was finally seeing land, after being adrift for so long. And yeah. So I don't remember any challenges. I only remember it as like a really positive moment and a really positive turning point on a lot of levels.
Did anyone in your pods get COVID during this time period?
No, I think
Wow.
I'm trying to remember. I had it, I think I had it the first Thanksgiving. Like that would have been Thanksgiving of 2020. And then I don't remember the other times I've had it. That was the bad one because that was the pre-vaccine one, so I got really sick. Um, but yeah, no, we lucked out. We did all right.
Did COVID affect your vocal performance or any kind of did it affect any part of your musical prowess at all?
Oh, like after like having it like afterward.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I really fared very well. This is what I'm saying. Like I don't know. I'm just very lucky, I think. I don't know. Um
I guess music is healing, I guess.
yeah, I think I mean I remember being really depressed when I got COVID because I couldn't
Oh,
taste anything.
oh, that's the
And
worst.
that totally fucked me up. I was just like so unhappy and I thought it was never going to come back. I was Googling like how long does it take for your taste to come back after COVID? And like some people are like, it never comes back. And I was like, I won't have anything to live for if I can't taste anything. I was like
No,
scared. I was high key scared. But
my
I
God.
got my taste back and it's normal. So
How
I
long did it
guess
take for your taste to come back?
I feel like it was gone completely for like a full week. And
Oh,
it kind of came back slowly. Like I remember reading that like the first thing you'll start tasting again is like citrus. So I was like, Mom, you need to buy me some orange juice. I was like eating lemons, just trying to taste something. Like it was desperate. It was really pathetic.
well, those are the things that my mom was trying to get me to eat during that time period.
Right.
He was like, you better eat oranges and
Right.
like
You
put
gotta get
lemon
the
in your
vitamin
tea.
C. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, just do all that. That's
Hmm. It was horrible
that's
though.
great.
I was so upset. I was like, this is not gonna work for me. I'm gonna have to figure something out.
Oh my God.
So
So
yeah.
your Pete's Candy Store live album from Brooklyn. So
Hmm.
what goes into getting a live album recorded? Or is it simpler than I'm making out to be?
Well, it was very simple. The recording engineer, Irving Goodori, I'm not sure that I'm saying his last name right because I only ever saw it on an email. Um, he works at the venue a lot, so when I think that he reaches out to people who are playing there who seem to be, established bands and stuff. He had reached out to me and was, gave me his rate and whatever, and was like, I can record your set at Pete's Candy Store if you want. And I was like, I don't usually, go for like the cold call kind of things, but this could actually be really interesting. And we had played there before. We played there in July, and the venue asked us back, which was super sick. I didn't even know that they did that, so that was very validating. But that's a side note. So yeah, Irving reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And he just showed up and multi-tracked the whole thing, and I didn't really even have to do anything. I just hired him. I was like, this is awesome. I'm so used to doing everything myself. That's the power of paying people, I guess.
Yeah. So when you talk about relinquishing control,
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
kind of insane.
exactly.
Was his
Yeah. So
rate reasonable?
yeah, completely reasonable. And to
Wow.
any musicians listening, if you play at Pete's Candy Store and Irving reaches out to you, asking to record, take him up on it. And if you're doing any kind of remote recording, he was just so good. Super chill. Um, really high quality recordings. He
Really
offered
good recording. Oh my
yeah, he
God. I
he
loved it.
offered he offered to mix, but I was like, we'll just mix it ourselves so we can, do some tweaking and stuff. But yeah, he was awesome. Huge fan.
So you got it
Um
recorded at Pete's, then you
mhm,
mixed and mastered it. You and your
mhm.
dad, or just you yourself?
My dad did
Wow.
did that, yeah, and then I bossed him around and I tell him make that louder, make that quieter, and it usually ends up being what he wanted in the first place anyway. So you
Phenomenal.
know how it is.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
cool of that is that Pete's Candy Store is a Brooklyn venue, and you're all the way the hell out on Long Island.
yeah.
So I think it's so interesting that you're not isolated. There's people around all over like New York that like what's going on with the bell curves.
Yeah, I guess so, which is pretty cool. It's a very nice feeling to think that anyone gives a shit about these songs that I made up. It's like really nice. And I don't say that to be like self-deprecating. I just really feel like it's just awesome. Like I just made these songs up and someone cares about them. It's just really cool. Um, so yeah. Yeah, and again, I didn't actually when we recorded the live album, I didn't tell the band that we were doing it. I told my dad that I wanted to do it, and so he knew we were doing it. But like Sam and Anne and John, um, I didn't tell them we were recording because I was like, if I tell them, they're gonna get super like in their heads about it. They're gonna second guess, and like I just want the raw energy because like I do think that like we have a really cool live thing going on that has a different energy from the studio thing. And I wanted to capture that. So I intentionally did not tell them until after we were done.
But the thing is about the kind of music you're making, it is better when it's raw.
Yeah,
When
because
it's
it's
not.
human,
Yes.
it's which
Yeah.
comes back to the thing we were saying before about like country music and folk music more broadly is like it's just people making songs, and sometimes things go sideways and it's imperfect and like that's really cool.
It's very cool. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like Mississippi Hill Country blues, like R.L.
Mm,
Burnside
mm-hmm.
and Sun House and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And it's very raw. It's
Yeah.
human. It's
Right.
emotive. The songs are there. The stories are there,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a beauty to it. Do you
Yes.
listen to Yola at all?
I loved her first album.
Same.
And her more recent one, I really like the singles, but I never really like dug into it as a
Same.
record as much. Yeah.
100%. The
Yeah.
one thing that I thought she did differently was she had like the soul element into her twangy Americana country stuff.
Yes.
But it is like it's very country.
Mm-hmm.
If you showed it to like a country fan who listened to all the people that we named today, like Emily Lou Harris and
Right.
Bonnie Raitt and all that stuff, you'd be like, "Yep, that's for me."
Right. Which is why like I feel like the term like Americana is like a nice catch-all because I, in my mind anyway, it encompasses all of these other genres. Like it encompasses soul and country and blues and folk and rock and roll and like all of these things that all fall under the umbrella of Americana.
Yeah. Do you listen to Shayna Cleveland from La Luz? Oh,
Oh, wait, she was your last guest.
yep, yep.
Yes, yes.
And
I'm familiar with La Luz. I did not know that she had a solo project.
yeah, her last album, her most recent album, Manzanita, is very Americana. It's very twangy.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rural.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm listening to it, I'm like, yeah, I think Delaney
Mm-hmm.
would be into this if she hasn't
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
this.
I'll have to listen to it because I did check out some of the other interviews.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
So you're doing Rockwood Music Hall April 15th, and you're going way out to Long Island on May 13th for the May Day Festival. What is that?
Yeah. So, it's funny you say way out on Long Island. I'm like, I have to go west to get to that festival.
Farmingville?
Yeah,
That's Long Island.
Farmingville, Bald Hill. That's what
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying. I'm saying I live further east of there.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
okay. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, we're deep out here. But yeah, May Day is really cool. It's organized by a labor union, which we love. Love to see
Wow.
that. Um
Very
so
Woody Guthrie.
yes, yes, which again, huge fan, obviously. Um and they have some really serious headliners this year. Blues Traveler and the Wallflowers are headlining it. Um I'm pretty sure we're going to be kicking off like the regional stage, which I'm stoked for. And some other of my like favorite local bands are playing, like MJT and Quarter
Oh
Horse.
wow, MJT.
Yes.
I have not seen them live in like a long time.
I
Wow.
haven't either. And so I'm super stoked for that to see what they sound like these days. And yeah, and I'm actually going to be playing bass with Pete Mancini, who I mentioned earlier, because he's playing as well. So it's going to be a good freaking day. That's May 13th.
Awesome. So, as a Long Island based musician, do you have any issues or challenges in booking shows in the boroughs outside of like Pete's Candy Store and Rockwood Music Hall? Do you have any challenges of getting shows out here?
Um, that's a good question. The challenge for me is that I struggle because I will play anywhere, anytime for anyone, but I don't always feel comfortable asking my band to commit to a gig that I haven't kind of sussed out. Um, so like with Rockwood and Pete's Candy Store, like obviously I've been there, I've played there. I know that it's worth bringing the band. But with places that I haven't been to yet, it can be kind of hard to know whether it's worth the effort of bringing the band. Um, because it just means that like everyone has to drive into the city. Everyone has to like either take off work or rush out after work. And like it's just like time and energy that I'm asking them to put in. And I know that they all want to do it and enjoy doing it, but it's still a commitment that I want to be like mindful and respectful of. So yeah. It's also just like far away. Like I feel like growing up, I always thought that New York City was, like, oh, I live outside New York. But like, no, I don't fucking live outside New York. I live an hour and a half away from New York City. Like I don't live near New York City. So like it's really cool to be able to play there and feel like we're more of a regional act for it and to be able to get up into the Hudson Valley and like Western New York a little bit. That is really cool. But I don't prioritize New York City because I also think that I would rather try to be a big fish in a little pond before I, you know, try to, you know, I'm getting into a mixed metaphor here. I was going to say like frying pan into the fire or something. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm like losing the thread of my metaphor now. Um, but yeah, I would rather focus on developing a reputation in smaller scenes and building those networks, but rather than trying to like develop something in the city and just burning out because I don't live there. And it's so big and it's so easy to get lost in the white noise of it all that like I just don't know if it's like worth the effort. Whereas like I can really focus on like developing something close to where I live or someplace that's like a smaller scene that I'm connected to. So,
You essentially want to bring people out east instead of the other way around. Like most people go
yeah.
into the city for shows.
Yeah.
Now you get something cooking out
Right.
east. It's like, oh, I want to go out to
Yeah.
Farmingville now, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like there's people here. I mean, it's like one of
of
the most
course.
densely populated places in the country. Like there's people here and there's got to be people who want to hear some new music. And I've also been doing all right like out in the Hamptons because I work out in the Hamptons, and so like I've started to meet some people out there, and that's been pretty cool. It's obviously like Hamptonsy, but it's it's nice, and there are some supportive people out there and some cool things going on. So yeah,
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
Delaney, it's been awesome having you on My Little Underground to talk up the bell curves. This is your
yeah.
time to plug anything you got going on that we didn't already talk about.
Well, you really are very well researched, which I appreciate. So I don't know if there's anything I can add. You probably already know about it. I guess April 15th at Rockwood Music Hall. We're playing at 6 p.m. that Saturday evening. And I think that's going to be a very good show. So if you can't make it to that and you're out on Long Island, May Day, it's May 13th. And that's going to be sick as hell. So those are kind of
Saturday at 6 p.m. You can't
Rockwood
get any
music.
better than that.
Yeah, I
That
know.
is great.
It's like prime
Perfect.
Americana set time in
Ah,
my mind.
that's perfect. Plug your website.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
really
yeah.
good. Yeah.
So the website is what is the website? Thebellcurves.xyz. And Bandcamp too is another good place to go. But also appreciate a Spotify follow because gotta feed the algorithms, and Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, I'm on the internet. I try to
All
do
over the internet.
everything. I try.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Delaney.
Well, thank you.